everyone. I am Sanjana Arora, your host for today, and I am bringing to you another episode of ITL Voices. I would like to thank you all for joining us today and would love to know how you're enjoying the series thus far. Please leave a comment letting us know the same and also subscribe to our channel for regular alerts. Today we have a very special guest with us, Ms. Chinelo Meg, who is currently a Finance Transaction Counsel at Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. Not just that, Chinelo is a volunteer advocate for women empowerment, child rights, social justice, and responsible governance. She has her own platform called Meet My Busy Mind, which we will hear more about from her. Chinelo has been involved in many roles across various industries. It would be great to hear about her journey today, so let's get straight into that. Okay, it's great to have you here, Chinelo. Let's jump
Okay,
right into the questions.
sure.
You have had quite a journey transitioning into Canadian legal market. What
Mm.
inspired you to make this move?
So I had first come for my master's in 2012. I got a double scholarship with Dalhousie, the Shillip Law School, and the Faculty of Graduate Studies. When I finished my master's in 2013, by the time I was finishing, I'd fallen in love with Canada. And I wanted to stay back, but things were not so settled at the time. So I went back to Nigeria, continued practicing. And the moment I had the first opportunity, I said, why not? I came back. I also wanted to, even though I have been practicing law in Nigeria, but I wanted to practice law on a larger scale, do something different. And, that was what motivated me.
That's great to hear. So you mentioned that you went back to Nigeria, and worked there. Tell us about the kind of work you've done there and how those skills have helped you build a career here in Canada.
Sure. So I started out first as a criminal litigator, and then I pivoted to commercial transactions and commercial litigation. And then with time, and then I also did some corporate governance, board advisory work. And then with time, I kind of solidified more in project financing, infrastructure development. I began to carve a niche for myself as more of a finance lawyer, even though it's in-house. And moving here, I found that those skills were easily transferable because Nigeria practices English common law and most of Canada practices English common law. The similarities in the principles and the application of the law is there. There are just some differences probably in nomenclature or how things are named and one or two different things here and there, but I found that my skills were easily transferable. So yep, it helped me. The practice experience that I had in Nigeria helped me to be able to put my foot down here and to start my life as a lawyer here.
Right, and I can totally relate to that. Me also coming from a common law jurisdiction can totally say that a lot of skills are indeed transferable. So I would also like to know when you transition into a different jurisdiction, what were the biggest challenges you faced in the beginning of your journey?
Um, at the beginning of my journey here, I would say that the first challenge I experienced, and that was in 2012, 2013, when I first came, was lack of inadequate research or inadequate information. I had an idea of what I wanted. I was interested in, practicing here and all that. But honestly, I hadn't done my homework before I left. So I just came, I joke with my friends that I came with only coconuts in my head and quite a lot of optimism. So it was one of the things that made me go back, because when I realized all of the hurdles, the NCAs, the barristers, the articling, I was like, I'm not mentally prepared for this. So I think that was the first barrier or challenge that I faced. But coming back the second time in 2017, I found subsequently that I faced some of those challenges, I had begun to see them the first time, but they were more apparent the second time. And it was stereotypes and boxes. Stereotypes in that because, my experience was maybe from what you could consider a third world country. It was very easy to be written off. I had attended an interview where all the interviewers asked me about was Boko Haram, and nobody was even asking me about my technical skills or what I know. And I find particularly that thing called Canadian experience it can be very, very limiting, because if I paid my dues and moved here as and Canada saw me qualified as an immigrant, and I came with all of those experience and all of those skills, to then be hit with Canadian experience every time. And I was like, how do I get Canadian experience if I cannot get Canadian experience? I mean, I need to get Canadian experience. So I have to get the experience first. So hire me first, and then you see that, my skills are easily transferable. So yes, those were some of the challenges that I had. I know that at the time, in as much as we had networks, and I'm grateful for the Black Female Lawyers Network, Canadian Association of Black Lawyers, the OPA, but I found that at the time, a lot of the focus was on homegrown people who had gone to law school here, which is good, but there was not enough visibility for people like me, internationally trained lawyers. I think the tide is changing. I think things are improving, and I think it's getting better, but we're not there yet.
I completely agree with you when you say that times are changing, because, like you shared your experience from 2012, I am gradually transitioning into the system, and I can say 2021 is definitely better, and there are more opportunities and more resources for people like us.
Mm-hmm.
So, we know that our careers are extremely challenging. Most of us are juggling between different roles and responsibilities at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
How do you work through the tough work-life balance?
I have a whole article on that on my blog. I mean, first, I pace myself. I pace myself a lot. When I was younger, I struggled a lot in my during my early career. But now I've gotten to the point where I know my limits. Once my body is telling me you have gotten to your limits, I have gotten to my limits. I pace myself. If I get work that I do not absolutely have time for, I may not say no outrightly, but I will let whoever say no, that I'm happy to jump on and assist. I only have a lot of things, tight deadlines now. Would next week be fine, or would next 2 weeks be fine? And see if we can move things around. As much as possible, I observe my holidays. That's my Saturdays, my Sundays, public holidays. When I was much younger, and I keep saying when I was much younger, you may feel like, okay, she's like 70 years old. No, but I have almost 15 years of legal experience behind me. And my earlier career days, I would be at work on Christmas Day, on New Year Day, on public. I don't do that. That's not healthy. That's recipe for burning out, and being really staying just not being healthy at all. I think particularly at this time where I am in my life, I am very grateful that I am with an organization, the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, that is not tied down by traditional work hours, so that I can go grocery shopping during the day and work at night. We have flexible hours. Yes, there are times you have to attend certain meetings in fixed times, but generally you own your time. It's a result-only work environment. And honestly, that has done quite a lot for my mental health and for my work life. I am able to achieve so much without, when I do not have a lot on my plate, I literally chill. And then so that when, there's a lot and it's rushing at me, I can then take from that rest that I have gotten and work the extra time if I have to, right? And then other things like to-do lists, or I work smart. I work on my phone sometimes if I have to. Yeah, those are some of the coping strategies.
That's great to hear. Also, talking about mental health and other social issues, we are currently in a time where social and political turmoil is there worldwide. How do you think the last 2 years have affected your work? How have you come out of it, if there were any struggles?
Ah, well, firstly, so let me start with the social aspect of it being the pandemic. Before the pandemic, I used to be that person who had a plan A to Z. Since the pandemic, I literally am learning to live each day as it comes, honestly. Like, yes, it's good to plan, but I am not too bogged down about planning too far into the future. And, I don't let myself get too stressed or stay stressed for long if plans fall through, because the pandemic happened to us. And here we are almost 2 years later, we're all adapting and we're all surviving. So I have found that I have develop the ability to adapt better and take things in their stride. And then on the professional side, I would say that as a Black person or a person of color living in North America, and I think I speak for a lot of us Black people. I think within the past 2 years, the events of the past 2 years, particularly George Floyd, affected us so much to the extent that there was some sort of what you could consider coming out. I remember when George Floyd happened and, the whole world was literally shocked and traumatized. And there were very flowery and, very cute statements going around that thank God we're in Canada where things like that don't happen. And a couple of us had to speak out for the very first time. And this is coming from someone like me, being an immigrant, being scared of being labeled, of, being noted as a troublemaker or something, and then not being picked for, which was what I was warned against when I first started. I was warned, you have to be careful the way you speak and all that. So I kind of like stayed in a shell. But with George Floyd, a lot of us had to come out and speak up and say there are stereotypes we also have suffered. And while it may not have that immediate magnitude, but it still goes towards the same reinforcing prejudices and, keeping a group of people from experiencing a certain kind of development or wealth. Aside from being more vocal about some of those things, I think for me, I finally came to terms with the fact that this is who I am and you have to accept me like that, right? For the longest time, when I moved to Canada, I would switch my middle name with my first name. So my middle name is Margaret Mary, Meg for short. And I started going with Meg. And the reason was because when I had applied for like over 100 jobs and I didn't get one call back. And somebody advised me and they said, you know what, when recruiters see a strange sounding first name and a strange sounding last name, you're not likely to get a call back, especially if there's Nigeria all over your resume. So I switched my middle name with my first name. I started and I anglicized my name more. And in some instances, I would even, take my father's baptismal name, his own English name, and replace it with my actual surname. So I literally was stripping my personality, but with all of the things that have happened in the past 2 years, I think I came full circle and I said, this is who I am. I love my middle name, yes, but it's my middle name. I love my first name more. My first name has a lot of meaning in my culture and my tribe where I'm from, right? And I was like, you have to accept me for who I am. I actually must give kudos. I think as a nation, Canada, and I think the corporate workplace, there is still a lot of work to be done. But I think visible efforts are being made. People are moving forward. Like some of those things I used to contend with, things like, oh, your name is so difficult to pronounce. I haven't had that in a while. And thankfully, I got to join an organization that is genuinely diverse. And, I have been able to bring all of me, wear my braids to work, as I didn't used to. I used to put on weaves a lot, braids here and there. I think all of that has kind of shaped how the past 2 years and how it's affected us. The last thing is me being in Nigeria and my Nigerian heritage. There was also the EndSARS that happened towards the end of October. I'm not sure you know about it, but for a lot of us Nigerians living outside Nigeria, we were really traumatized. People had to take time away from work. And you know what? I think for me, what that taught me was I can do my best, but I cannot save everyone. I can do the best because we felt really helpless. And there is a hopelessness that comes with feeling helpless. And when you feel helpless like that, you wonder, you're like, why don't I just throw in the towel? Why am I advocating? Why am I speaking up? Because we did advocate, people spoke up, yet innocent Nigerians were murdered and the whole world was watching and nothing happened. Nothing has happened to date. But what it has taught me and what I have learned is that, you know what, do your bits and let your legacy be that you did your part. In the short run, it may look like, nothing has happened, but for the sake of posterity and when, when time goes back and people look at things, records down the line, it will be said that, you did not just sit there and fold your arms, you did your bit. So I I do my bit and I encourage everyone else. That's the main experience I took from that. You know what? Do your bit to making the world better. It may not look like it has changed or it's changing, but do your bit anyway and keep it moving.
I completely agree with you. It's the tiny steps that counts, definitely
Mhm,
counts in the bigger picture.
mhm,
So, you are extremely active in the field of social reform, including Meet My Busy Mind. Tell us
mhm.
about the initiative. What made you launch the platform, and how has the experience been?
To be very honest, I launched the platform because I was bored. So I had finished my master's in 2012. I was job hunting. And for like 4 months, I was just staying at home, nothing, nobody. I wasn't getting anything. All I heard was, all the feedback I got was, you are overqualified. And I think I was running out of my mind because that was the first time in my career I was literally taking a break. And this wasn't a break I even wanted. So a friend of mine said, you know, you write really well, right? Why don't you start a blog? I mean, right now, like blogs where you write is not like the in thing. Videos, TikToks, they're more like the in thing. But back then, it was kind of the, if I was like, oh my gosh, I do not have the strength for that. And I said, one day I said, you know what, maybe I should just start. So I literally started it out of boredom. But as time went on, something happened to me. I actually found that it was an outlet where, you know, my personality could come to the bubble. My personality, which is that I am an equal or even more than an equal. Like I have my humorous side. I look at life, honestly, through the lens of humor. I can only stay down for so long. Eventually, I have to, you know, find a way, even when I'm making very serious points. I find a way to infuse the humor. And at the same time, I was able to vocalize myself, like this was my own space. So what it did for me was I found my voice. I found that I had a voice. I ended up building my own brand, being my person. And in as much as I never monetized my blog per se, but the amount of love and the amount of publicity and the amount of opportunity that it opened me to, and the amount of learning, because for me to write any post, a post could take me as short as 3 minutes and as long as 5 months because I'm doing research. I had to, so many things I didn't even know about when I started writing a post based on my restricted view. And I say, you know what, before I put anything out there as a lawyer we are, I have to do my research. And then I do research and my mind will be blown up like, wow, who knew that? So yeah, that was what made me launch the blog Boredom. But then it became my main outlet for my voice, and I'm really grateful for how far I've come.
That's really great to hear. I think a lot of us then can do something out of boredom. So, any moment for change always tend to ruffle some feathers and draw criticism. How do you deal with the backlash?
Hmm. You know, if it was when I was younger, there I go again. I probably answered this question a little different. I'd probably say something along the lines of, oh, well, it is what it is. I am myself and all of that. But with time, I have come to find, and there is a saying I think that goes that even a wrong clock is right twice a day. So when there is backlash, or maybe when there are critics or there's criticism, as against just closing my mind and not, you know, I actually listen. I'm like, okay, perhaps there is a point in some of this or all of this. If there are points in what the backlash is about or the criticism, if it's constructive, sometimes even when it's not constructive, but there is a truth, you know, I take things, I go back, I reflect on them. If it's something I have to change, I change. But if I reflect on them, or I take things and, you know, there is absolutely no truth to it, I put it in a box and toss it in the bin where it should be, and I keep it moving. But I find that taking the time, and that's one thing having my blog has done for me. As against, you know, when you're a litigation lawyer, that's where I started from. When you go to court, all you want to do is talk, 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 talk. This is my point, this is my point. But when I started my blog, first of all, after my master's, and then when I say my blog, I started understanding that sometimes you have to listen actually. And that's probably a huge problem we have in the world because no, we're not listening to each other. We're all just talking. Nobody's listening. So I do, sometimes the criticism has some meat and I take my time, I listen to it. I take any lessons I can from it and, you know, I keep it moving. So that's.
That is great to hear. There have been so many great takeaways from all that you have shared with us. Thank you so much for taking out the time to chat with us, share your journey and experiences.
My pleasure.
I'm very excited for our viewers to hear the same.
That's okay.
Thank you so much.